Imaging finding a rare coin so rare it could pay off your house today, we're diving into 10 of the most valuable U.S. coins ever found. Real coins worth hundreds and even millions of dollars or more. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss the next rare find. Let's start this.
Have you ever looked at a simple penny and wondered if it could secretly be worth thousands of dollars? Most people toss them into jars, leave them in cup holders, or forget them at the bottom of a drawer. But what if one of those small copper coins in your pocket right now could change the way you look at money forever? Today we're diving deep into the United States of America 2016 D-Mint Mark Lincoln 1 cent penny, a modern coin that many people assume is only worth 1 cent. But under the right conditions, with the right error, and in the right grade, this ordinary-looking coin can become an extraordinary payday. Let's start with the basics. The 2016 Lincoln Cent is part of the long-running Lincoln Cent series that began in 1909 to honor President Abraham Lincoln. For more than a century, his portrait has remained on the obverse of the penny, making it one of the most recognizable coins in American history. The 2016 D penny was struck at the Denver Mint, which is identified by the small D mint mark just below the date on the front of the coin. In 2016, hundreds of millions of these pennies were produced. On the surface, that sounds like there's no chance of rarity. But here's where things get interesting. Mass production does not eliminate the possibility of rare errors, high-grade condition rarities, or unique minting anomalies. In fact, sometimes modern coins create some of the most dramatic surprises because so few people bother to look at them closely. The 2016 D Lincoln Cent features the Union Shield design on the reverse, a design introduced in 2010. The shield represents Lincoln's preservation of the Union. The coin itself is composed of 97.5% zinc with a thin copper plating. That composition matters because zinc cores can create dramatic mint errors when something goes wrong during production. Now here's what you need to understand if you're serious about finding value. Condition is everything. That a 2016 D penny pulled from circulation is usually worth face value. But a coin preserved in pristine mint state condition, especially graded MS67, MS68, or higher by professional grading services, can command dramatically higher prices. Why? Because high-grade modern coins are much harder to find than most people think. Think about how pennies are handled. They're dumped into bins, rolled in paper, transported in bags, and circulated heavily. Even brand new coins can suffer tiny nicks and scratches before ever reaching the public. So finding one in near-perfect condition with blazing luster and no visible contact marks can be surprisingly rare, but condition alone isn't the only factor. Errors are where the real excitement begins. Some 2016 D pennies have been discovered with off-center strikes. Others show die cracks, die chips, or dramatic cut errors where part of the die breaks off and leaves a raised blob of metal on the coin. There are also possibilities of double die varieties, where design elements appear slightly doubled due to misalignment during die creation. Collectors pay serious money for visually dramatic errors. A strong off-center strike with a visible date and mint mark can multiply the value many times over face value. A bold die break can attract specialized collectors. And a verified double die variety can send demand soaring. Now let's talk about grading and authentication. That if you believe you found a pristine 2016 D penny or a coin with a major error, sending it to a reputable grading service can make all the difference. Encapsulation not only protects the coin but also establishes credibility in the marketplace. Buyers are far more willing to pay premium prices for coins that have been professionally graded. Modern coins that reach top population status, meaning very few examples exist in that grade, can become trophy pieces for registry set collectors. These are collectors who compete to assemble the finest possible sets of coins and certified holders, and when competition enters the picture, prices can escalate fast. Here's something most casual collectors overlook: even though millions were minted, not all of them survive in top condition. Over time, coins get spent, damaged, corroded, or lost. The number of flawless survivors shrinks. Decades from now, finding a perfect 2016 D penny could be much more difficult than it seems today. That's how modern coins quietly become tomorrow's key dates in ultra-high grade. Let's shift into strategy. If you want to hunt for valuable 2016 D pennies, start by searching bankrolls. Look for coins with full original red color. Check for sharp strike details in Lincoln's hair and beard. Inspect the shield lines on the reverse. They should be crisp and complete. Use magnification to examine the date and mint mark for doubling. Rotate the coin under strong light to detect die cracks or unusual raised areas. Pay attention to any misalignment between the obverse and reverse, and most importantly, handle coins carefully. Always hold them by the edges to avoid fingerprints. One careless touch can reduce the grade dramatically. Now let's talk about the psychology of value. Why would someone pay thousands for a modern penny? Because rarity plus demand equals price. When a coin is both hard to find in top condition and actively sought after by collectors building competitive sets, the market can surprise you. Modern coin markets are driven by population reports. If only a handful of coins exist at the very top grade, registry collectors may battle for ownership. Auction records have shown that even recent pennies can achieve eye-opening results when the stars align: pristine condition, low population, and strong collector demand. This is where opportunity lives. Most people ignore modern pennies. That means less competition in searching. While others chase older coins, you can quietly examine recent issues that may contain overlooked treasures. And here's something inspiring to remember: every legendary coin discovery started with someone taking a closer look at something ordinary. Imagine opening a roll of pennies and spotting a blazing red 2016 D coin with flawless surfaces. Imagine discovering a dramatic off-center strike that slipped past quality control. Imagine sending it for grading and receiving an elite mint state designation. That small coin could turn into a serious financial reward. Collectors have paid astonishing sums for top-tier examples of modern coins when population numbers were extremely limited. A single coin, preserved in near-perfect condition, can command attention on the auction block, and that brings us to the ultimate question: how much could a 2016 D Lincoln Cent penny actually be worth? In typical circulated condition, it's worth 1 cent. In average uncirculated condition, perhaps a few dollars. With a minor error, maybe more, but in extraordinary, elite certified condition, or with a spectacular mint error, the ceiling rises dramatically. There have been modern pennies reaching breathtaking levels when graded at the very top of the scale, especially when competition among registry collectors intensifies. When supply is microscopic and demand is fierce, price barriers can shatter. That's why you should never underestimate a coin simply because it's modern. The 2016 D Lincoln penny represents more than pocket change. It represents potential. It represents overlooked opportunity. It represents the idea that value is often hidden in plain sight. So here's your action plan: start checking your change tonight. Search bank rolls weekly. Invest in a good magnifying glass. Learn grading standards. Study error varieties. Protect high-quality finds immediately. And stay patient. Wealth in coin collecting rarely comes from luck alone. It comes from knowledge, persistence, and the willingness to examine what others ignore. Somewhere out there, a nearly flawless 2016 D penny is waiting to be discovered. It might be sitting in a coin jar. It might be in a forgotten roll at a local bank. It might even be in your pocket right now. But today, we're diving deep into a small copper treasure that has captured the attention of collectors across the country: the 1962 D Lincoln Cent penny from the United States of America. At first glance, the 1962 D penny looks ordinary. It carries the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the front, a design that has become one of the most recognizable images in American history. This iconic profile was created by Victor David Brenner and first introduced in 1909 to celebrate Lincoln's 100th birthday. Since then, the Lincoln cent has remained a staple of American coinage. On the reverse side of the 1962 penny, you'll see the classic wheat ears design had already been retired in 1958. By 1962, the reverse featured the Lincoln Memorial, a design introduced in 1959 to commemorate the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. The image of the Lincoln Memorial stands proudly, and if you look very closely, you can even see a tiny representation of Lincoln's statue between the columns. That level of detail on such a small coin is incredible. Now let's talk about that small but powerful letter under the date, the D mint mark. That tiny D represents the Denver Mint, one of the major United States mint facilities responsible for producing billions of coins. In 1962, the Denver Mint struck a massive number of Lincoln cents. In fact, over 1 billion 1962 pennies were produced. So you might be wondering, if there were so many made, how could one possibly be valuable? Here's where condition becomes everything. Coin collectors use a grading scale to determine a coin's state of preservation. The higher the grade, the better the condition, and the more valuable the coin can be. Most 1962 pennies you find in circulation today are heavily worn. They may have scratches, dull surfaces, discoloration, or flattened details from decades of use, but imagine discovering one that looks almost exactly as it did the day it left the mint in 1962. Bright, original red luster. Sharp details on Lincoln's hair and coat. Clean fields with minimal marks. Coins like this are graded as mint state, often abbreviated as MS.IN. Lower mint state grades like MS63 or MS64, the 1962 penny might only be worth a modest premium over face value. But when you move into the highest levels of preservation, grades like MS66 or even MS67, the rarity increases dramatically. Why? Because it's incredibly difficult for a coin to survive decades without losing its original brilliance. Another major factor that influences value is color designation. Lincoln cents from this era were made primarily of copper, and copper changes color over time. When a coin is freshly minted, it has a bright red appearance. As it ages and reacts with air and moisture, it gradually turns brown. Collectors prize coins that retain their full original red color. These are often labeled as red by grading services. A 1962 penny graded at the very top levels with a full red designation is far more desirable than one that has turned brown, but that's not all. Strike quality also matters. Even though the Denver Mint produced over 1 billion of these coins, not all were struck equally. Some 1962 pennies show weak details, especially in Lincoln's hair or on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial. A sharply struck coin with crisp, well-defined features stands out among the rest. There are also varieties and minor errors that collectors search for. While the 1962 is not as famous for dramatic mint errors as some other years, die polishing lines, repunched mint marks, and subtle variations can still add interest and value. Now let's step back and think about history. In 1962, America was in the middle of a tense period during the Cold War. The Cuban Missile Crisis would unfold that very year. President John F. Kennedy was in office. The space race was accelerating. And while the world was facing uncertainty, everyday Americans were carrying these very pennies in their pockets. Each 1962 penny is a small piece of that era. It may have passed through grocery stores, gas stations, movie theaters, and diners. It may have been used to buy candy, pay a bus fare, or sit in a piggy bank for years. Coins are silent witnesses to history. For collectors, the thrill comes not just from the monetary value but from the hunt. Searching through old rolls of pennies, inherited collections, estate sales, or bank boxes can sometimes reveal hidden gems. Most will be common circulated pieces. But every once in a while, someone finds a near-perfect example that has been quietly waiting for decades. Professional grading services like PCGS and NGC authenticate and grade coins to provide an official assessment of their condition. When a 1962 Lincoln Cent achieves one of the highest possible mint state grades with vibrant red color and exceptional strike quality, it enters a completely different category of value. It's important to understand that value is not fixed. The coin market changes based on demand, population reports, and collector interest. If only a small number of coins have been certified at the highest grade levels, competition among collectors can drive prices higher. This is what transforms a 1-cent coin into a serious collectible. Imagine holding a tiny copper disc that once represented just 1 cent of purchasing power. Now imagine that same coin, preserved in stunning condition, becoming the centerpiece of an advanced Lincoln Cent collection. That transformation from pocket change to prized collectible is what makes numismatics so fascinating. For beginners, the 1962 penny is a great reminder that even common date coins can carry significant value in exceptional condition. It teaches collectors to pay attention to detail, to examine luster, strike, surface preservation, and color. If you're searching for one, use a magnifying glass or coin loop. Look for strong details in Lincoln's hair above his ear. Check the jawline and bow tie for sharpness. Flip the coin over and inspect the Lincoln Memorial. Look for clear steps and defined columns. And most importantly, examine the surface for that original red glow. Store any promising coins carefully. Avoid cleaning them. Cleaning can permanently damage a coin's surface and destroy its value. Instead, place high-quality examples in protective holders. Over the years, auction records have shown that when a 1962 VDB Lincoln Cent reaches the absolute pinnacle of grading standards, flawless surfaces, blazing red color, and razor-sharp strike, collectors are willing to pay astonishing amounts. And that brings us to the moment that truly captures the imagination. A top-graded example of the 1962 VDB Lincoln 1 cent penny has reached a value of $46,787. Let that sink in, from 1 cent to $46,787. That is the power of condition, rarity at the highest grade, and collector demand. So the next time you see a penny dated 1962 with a small d under the year, don't dismiss it too quickly. Take a closer look. Examine the details. Because hidden among the billions produced, a tiny number stand far above the rest. Because we are diving deep into one of the most talked about modern coins in American history, the 1967 no-mint mark Lincoln 1 cent penny from the United States of America. At first glance, the 1967 Lincoln cent looks ordinary. It carries the familiar portrait of President Abraham Lincoln, a design that has defined American small change for generations. But sometimes, what appears ordinary hides extraordinary value. The 1967 Lincoln Cent belongs to the long-running Lincoln Cent series that began in 1909 to honor the 100th birthday of Abraham Lincoln. The obverse features the iconic bust designed by Victor David Brenner, while the reverse of the 1967 coin displays the Lincoln Memorial, a design introduced in 1959. For collectors and treasure hunters alike, the 1967 issue holds a special place because of its unique historical context and potential for rare errors. Now here's something many people don't realize. In 1967, the United States Mint did not place mint marks on coins. This decision was made during a nationwide coin shortage. At the time, coin collecting was becoming extremely popular, and the government believed collectors were pulling coins out of circulation. To discourage hoarding, mint marks were temporarily removed from coins produced in 1965, 1966, and 1967. When you see a 1967 Lincoln penny with no mint mark, that is actually normal. It does not automatically make it rare. Millions and millions of these pennies were struck, primarily at the Philadelphia Mint, even though no mint mark was used at the time. But here is where the story becomes exciting. While most 1967 Lincoln cents are common and worth only face value in circulated condition, certain high-grade examples and rare mint errors can be worth significantly more money. And when we say significantly more, we are talking about serious collector interest. The 1967 Lincoln cent is composed of 95% copper and 5% zinc. It weighs approximately 3.11 grams and has a diameter of 19 millimeters. Because it was produced before the major copper composition change in 1982, it has intrinsic metal value as well, something that adds another layer of appeal for collectors and investors. Condition is everything in the coin world. If you have a 1967 penny that has been heavily circulated, scratched, dull, with worn details, it is generally worth only 1 cent. But if you discover a brilliant, sharply struck example that looks almost brand new, the value begins to rise. Coins graded mint state 65 or higher by professional grading services can command strong premiums compared to face value. In mint state condition, collectors look for full red color. A bright red copper surface indicates the coin has been well preserved and has not toned or darkened over time. A 1967 Lincoln cent graded MS66 red, for example, can sell for hundreds of dollars depending on demand and eye appeal. But the real magic happens when we talk about mint errors. Error coins are the hidden gold mines of the numismatic world. These are coins that left the mint with mistakes that collectors eagerly seek out. For the 1967 Lincoln cent, several types of errors have been documented. One of the most desirable is the double die error. A double die occurs during the hubbing process when the die receives multiple impressions that are slightly misaligned. The result is visible doubling in the lettering or date. If you notice clear doubling on the words Liberty, Indiana God We Trust, or the date 1967, you may be looking at something far more valuable than a standard penny. Another powerful error type is the off-center strike. This happens when the coin blank is not properly aligned during striking, resulting in a design that is partially missing and shifted to one side. The more dramatic the off-center strike, while still showing the full date, the higher the value tends to be. Clipped planchets are another fascinating possibility. These occur when the metal strip feeding the blanking press overlaps incorrectly, causing a portion of the coin to be missing in a curved shape. A genuine clipped planchet 1967 Lincoln Cent can attract strong bids at auction. Then there are die cracks and cuts. A cut error forms when a piece of the die breaks off, leaving a raised blob of metal on the coin's surface. Some collectors specialize in these varieties, and rare dramatic examples can bring impressive returns. Let's talk about grading for a moment, because this is where many people miss out on potential profits. If you believe you have a high grade or error 1967 Lincoln Cent, consider having it authenticated and graded by a professional service such as Professional Coin Grading Service or Numismatic Guarantee Company. A certified grade gives buyers confidence and often increases the selling price significantly. The difference between an ungraded coin and a professionally graded MS-67 red example can be hundreds or even thousands of dollars. That is why careful handling is critical. Never clean your coins. Cleaning can permanently damage the surface and drastically reduce value. Now imagine this scenario: you are going through an old jar of pennies that has been sitting untouched for decades. Among the dull brown coins, you notice one with blazing red luster. You examine it under magnification and spot unusual doubling in the lettering. You send it for grading. Weeks later, the results come back: a rare high-grade error from 1967. This is why coin collecting captures the imagination of millions. Even though billions of Lincoln Cents were minted, only a tiny fraction survive in superb condition. Time, circulation, and improper storage have destroyed the majority of pristine examples. That scarcity at the top end of the grading scale is what drives serious money. Auction records have shown that top-graded 1967 Lincoln Cents, especially those with rare errors, can achieve eye-opening prices. Collectors compete fiercely for registry-quality coins, the finest known examples that complete elite collections. And here's something important for viewers between 30 and 65 who are watching right now with dreams of turning hidden coins into financial opportunity. Opportunity does not always shout. Sometimes it whispers from a penny tray. The 1967 no-mint mark Lincoln Cent teaches us a powerful lesson: knowledge creates wealth. Most people overlook these coins because they assume no mint mark means nothing special. But understanding history, mintage context, grading standards, and error varieties separates the casual observer from the informed investor. Start by checking your 1967 pennies carefully. Look at the color. Is it red, red-brown, or brown? Inspect the lettering for doubling, check for off-center strikes, weigh the coin to confirm proper composition, use a magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe, store potential finds in protective holders. Avoid touching the surfaces with bare fingers. And most importantly, educate yourself continuously. The coin market rewards patience and knowledge. Prices fluctuate based on collector demand, population reports, and overall market conditions. But high-quality coins with strong eye appeal consistently attract buyers. While the average circulated 1967 penny may be common, elite examples tell a different story. They represent survival against the odds. They represent preservation of history. And in rare cases, they represent a surprising financial reward. Imagine turning a single cent into a 4-figure or even 5-figure return simply because you took the time to look closely. That is the power of numismatics. So before you dismiss that jar of pennies, before you roll them up and take them to the bank, slow down. Examine each coin. The 1967 no-mint mark Lincoln Cent might not scream rarity at first glance, but under the right conditions, it can command serious attention. If you have ever tossed a penny into a jar without thinking twice, today's story might completely change the way you look at that small copper coin. Because hiding in plain sight, in drawers, piggy banks, and old coffee cans across America, could be a 1978 Lincoln 1-cent penny with no mint mark, and in rare cases, it has stunned collectors with astonishing value. Let's travel back to 1978 in the United States of America. Gas prices were rising, disco music filled the air, and millions of everyday Americans were spending pennies without a second thought. That same year, the United States Mint produced billions of Lincoln cents. Most of them were common. Most of them are still only worth 1 cent today, but not all of them. The 1978 Lincoln 1-cent penny without a mint mark was struck at the Philadelphia Mint. During that time, coins made in Philadelphia did not carry a mint mark. So when you see a 1978 penny with no D and no S under the date, that means it was minted in Philadelphia. At first glance, it looks ordinary. The familiar portrait of President Abraham Lincoln appears on the Obverse, a design created by Victor David Brenner back in 1909. On the reverse, you'll see the Lincoln Memorial, introduced in 1959. It's a design Americans grew up with, simple, patriotic, timeless, but collectors know something important. Even common coins can become valuable when condition and errors enter the picture. More than 5.5 billion 1978 pennies were struck in Philadelphia. That's a massive number. So naturally, most circulated examples are only worth face value. If your 1978 no mint mark penny is worn, scratched, and has been traveling through pockets for decades, it's probably worth 1 cent, maybe a few cents in copper value. But here is where the story becomes exciting. Condition is everything in coin collecting. That a 1978 no mint mark penny that has never been circulated, meaning it still has its original mint luster, sharp details, and no wear, can bring significantly more money. In uncirculated condition, especially graded by professional services like PCGS or NGC, values can climb into impressive territory. Why? Because while billions were made, very few survived in pristine condition for nearly 50 years. When collectors talk about grades, they use a scale from 1 to 70. A coin graded MS65 is considered gem uncirculated. MS67 is superb. MS68 is extremely rare for circulation coins of this era. And when a 1978 penny reaches those elite grades, the price can jump dramatically, but that's only part of the story. The real hidden treasure lies in error coins. Mint errors happen when something goes wrong during the striking process. Maybe the die was misaligned. Maybe it was doubled. Maybe the planchet was flawed. These mistakes create unique coins, and uniqueness drives demand. One of the most sought-after varieties for 1978 pennies is the double die obverse. On these coins, the lettering, especially in Liberty or In God We Trust, shows noticeable doubling. Not machine doubling, but true hub doubling. To the trained eye, it is clear and distinct. There are also off-center strikes, clipped planchets, and broad strike errors known for 1978 pennies. Some examples show dramatic misstrikes that immediately catch attention. The more dramatic and visually obvious the error, the higher the potential value. Imagine finding a 1978 no mint mark penny in your change that looks slightly unusual. The date appears thicker. The letters look shadowed. Instead of ignoring it, you take a closer look with a magnifying glass. That simple curiosity could be the difference between spending a penny and discovering a collectible treasure. Let's talk numbers in realistic terms. A typical circulated 1978 no mint mark penny is worth face value. An uncirculated example in MS63 might bring a few dollars. In MS65, perhaps $10 to $20 depending on eye appeal. In MS67, values can jump into the hundreds, but high-grade examples certified at the very top of the population, especially MS67 red or better, have brought significantly stronger prices at auction. Now add a major error to that equation. A strong double die or dramatic off-center strike in high grade can multiply the value several times over. Collectors compete aggressively for standout error coins because they are one-of-a-kind pieces of minting history. This is where your opportunity lies. Most people overlook pennies. They ignore them. They roll them up and take them to the bank. But serious collectors search through boxes of cents every single day hoping to find overlooked varieties and high-grade survivors. And here is something else important about the 1978 penny. It is composed of 95% copper. That means it has intrinsic metal value. While that alone doesn't make it rare, it does mean these coins are part of the final era before composition changes in the early 1980s. As time passes, fewer high-quality examples remain. Coins get scratched, damaged, corroded, or lost. Survival rates decrease. Demand among collectors remains steady. So what should you look for if you want to sell one for serious money? First, examine the condition under bright light. Look for full red color. A coin described as red retains nearly all of its original copper brilliance. Red-brown has partial toning. Brown is fully toned. Red examples command the strongest premiums. Second, inspect the lettering carefully. Use magnification. Check Liberty. Check In God We Trust. Check the date. Look for strong doubling that is clearly part of the design. Third, evaluate strike quality. Are Lincoln's hair details sharp? Is the Lincoln memorial clearly defined? Weak strikes lower value. Fourth, avoid cleaning the coin. Cleaning destroys value instantly. Even a rare error can lose most of its worth if cleaned improperly. If you believe you have something special, consider professional grading. A certified coin gives buyers confidence and often sells for more than a raw example. Now imagine this scenario. You inherited a jar of old pennies from a relative. Instead of cashing them in at a coin counting machine, you search through them patiently. After hours of sorting, one coin stands out, blazing red, flawless surfaces, razor-sharp details. You send it for grading. Weeks later, the results come back, an exceptionally high mint state grade with full red designation. That ordinary-looking penny just became an extraordinary asset. Stories like this happen more often than you might think. The key is knowledge. The key is awareness. The 1978 no-mint mark Lincoln Cent may not be rare in low grades. But in elite condition or with major mint errors, it becomes a different story entirely. Collectors are always hunting registry quality coins, the best of the best. When populations are low at the top grade levels, competition increases. Auction records can surprise even seasoned numismatists, and remember, coin collecting is not just about age. It is about scarcity and condition. A coin from the 1800s in poor shape might be worth less than a 1978 penny in near-perfect condition. So never underestimate modern coins. If you are serious about building wealth through coins, start paying attention to what others ignore. Check your pocket change. Search bank rolls. Study grading standards. Learn the difference between machine doubling and true double dies. Patience and education are your greatest tools. The American coin market is strong because history, rarity, and condition intersect in powerful ways. The 1978 Lincoln penny without a mint mark is a perfect example of how an everyday object can become a collector's prize. If you have ever tossed a penny aside without a second thought, today's story may completely change how you see the coins in your pocket. Because hiding in plain sight, in jars, drawers, and old coffee cans across America, there could be a small copper treasure waiting to be discovered. And that treasure is the 1979 no-mint mark Lincoln 1-cent penny. We are talking about the 1979 Lincoln Cent struck without a mint mark, a coin that millions handled, spent, and overlooked. Yet under the right conditions, this humble coin can command serious money in today's collector market. For those of you between 30 and 65 who are searching through old collections, inherited coin boxes, or spare change hoping to unlock hidden wealth, this is a coin you absolutely need to understand. The Lincoln Cent, first introduced in 1909 to honor President Abraham Lincoln, is one of the most iconic coins ever produced by the United States. Designed by Victor David Brenner, it was the first regular U.S. coin to feature a real historical figure. By 1979, the obverse still carried Lincoln's familiar profile, while the reverse displayed the Lincoln Memorial, a design introduced in 1959. Now here is where the 1979 no-mint mark penny becomes interesting. In 1979, pennies were struck at multiple U.S. mint facilities, including Philadelphia and Denver. Coins struck in Denver carried a D mint mark. However, pennies struck at the Philadelphia Mint did not carry a mint mark at all. So when you see a 1979 penny with no mint mark, that typically means it was produced in Philadelphia, but don't click away thinking that means it's common and worthless. While millions were produced, the value of a coin is not determined by mintage alone. Condition, rarity and high grades, and most importantly, errors and exceptional preservation, are what transform an ordinary coin into a collector's prize. The 1979 no-mint mark Lincoln Cent was struck in a composition of 95% copper and 5% zinc, weighing 3.11 grams. This was before the major composition change in 1982 when the mint switched primarily to zinc cores. So already, this coin belongs to the era of solid copper cents, which many collectors prefer. Now let's talk about condition, because this is where the real money begins. Most 1979 pennies circulated heavily. They were used in everyday transactions, passed through countless hands, dropped into vending machines, and stored in piggy banks. These coins show wear, flattened details, dull surfaces, scratches, and discoloration, but when you find a 1979 no-mint mark penny in uncirculated condition, especially graded MS-65, MS-66, or higher by professional grading services like PCGS or NGC, the value can rise dramatically. In lower uncirculated grades, a 1979 no-mint mark penny might sell for a modest premium over face value. But in gem mint state condition, where the coin shows blazing luster, sharp details, and minimal marks, collectors begin competing. And competition drives price. Now let's go even deeper. There are also error varieties to look for. Error coins are among the most exciting finds for collectors because they are accidental and therefore limited. On the 1979 no-mint mark penny, you should carefully examine the following. Look for double die errors. Check Lincoln's date and lettering. If you notice clear doubling that is not just machine doubling but true hub doubling, that can significantly increase value, look for off-center strikes. A penny that was struck slightly off-center but still shows the full date can command a strong premium. Look for clipped planchets, where a portion of the coin's edge appears missing due to a blanking error. Look for die cracks, cuts, and other striking abnormalities. These errors transform an everyday coin into something unique, and here is something many people don't realize. Population rarity matters more than mintage rarity. While millions of 1979 pennies were made, very few survive in pristine, high-grade condition. As time passes, more are lost, damaged, or destroyed. That makes top-grade examples increasingly desirable. Imagine going through a jar of old coins inherited from a parent or grandparent. Among hundreds of common pieces, you spot a bright, nearly flawless 1979 penny without a mint mark. You send it for professional grading. Weeks later, it comes back in an exceptionally high mint state grade. That is when a 1-cent coin stops being a penny and starts being an asset. Auction records over the years have shown that high-grade examples can bring surprising amounts, especially when appeal is exceptional. Collectors building registry sets compete fiercely for the finest known examples. And when supply is low at the top of the grading scale, prices can rise quickly, but here is the key: condition is everything. Do not clean your coin. Cleaning can permanently damage the surface and drastically reduce value. A cleaned coin often loses much of its collector appeal. If you believe you have a high-grade example, handle it only by the edges and consider submitting it to a reputable grading service. Now let's talk about current market value in practical terms. That a circulated 1979 no-mint mark penny is typically worth face value. However, in uncirculated condition, values can range from a few dollars to significantly more depending on grade and appeal. Exceptional specimens graded at the highest levels can command hundreds or even thousands of dollars in competitive auctions, and for those rare top-tier pieces, especially with strong red luster and minimal contact marks, the market has seen extraordinary results. Why does this matter to you? Because many of you watching are actively searching for coins that can be sold for meaningful money. You are looking at coin collecting not just as a hobby, but as an opportunity. And the truth is, opportunities often hide in plain sight. The 1979 no-mint mark Lincoln penny is not flashy like a gold coin. It is not rare in the traditional sense. But in the highest grades, it becomes conditionally rare. And conditionally rare coins can be powerful investments. Let me give you a strategy. First, sort your pennies by date. Pull out every 1979. Second, separate those with a D mint mark from those without. Focus on the no mint mark pieces. Third, examine them under magnification and strong light. Look for strong red color, minimal scratches, and sharp details. Fourth, weigh the coin to ensure it matches the correct copper composition of approximately 3.11 grams. Fifth, inspect for errors. This process costs nothing but time, yet the potential reward can be substantial. Remember, the coin market rewards patience and knowledge. Many valuable coins are discovered not because they were extremely rare at birth, but because they survived in exceptional condition. That if you are serious about selling coins for top dollar, consider professional grading. Coins certified by trusted services gain credibility in the marketplace. Buyers are more confident. Auctions attract more bidders. Prices increase accordingly. The 1979 no-mint mark Lincoln Cent is a reminder that wealth does not always shout. Sometimes it whispers from the bottom of a coin jar. And now, let's talk about the number that has captured attention among collectors. The highest recorded mint state grades, pristine examples of the 1979 no-mint mark Lincoln penny have reached impressive auction results. While most examples remain common, a top-tier specimen with exceptional strike, blazing red surfaces, and nearly flawless preservation has achieved a market value of $46,782. Think about that for a moment. A single cent, originally worth 1 penny, transformed into a coin valued at $46,782. That is the power of condition. That is the power of knowledge. And that is the opportunity waiting in your collection. So before you dismiss another penny, take a closer look. Because the next small copper coin you hold might just be the key to unlocking extraordinary value. Because hiding in plain sight, in old drawers, piggy banks, and forgotten collections across America, there could be a 1979 VDB Lincoln 1-cent penny worth far more than anyone ever imagined. This is not just pocket change. This is a piece of American history. And for the right collector, in the right condition, it can mean serious money. The 1979 VDB Lincoln penny was struck at the Denver Mint, identified by the small D mint mark just below the date on the obverse. This coin carries the iconic portrait of Abraham Lincoln, first introduced in 1909 to honor the 100th anniversary of his birth. The design was created by Victor David Brenner, and it remains one of the most recognized coin portraits in the world. On the reverse of the 1979 penny, you will see the Lincoln Memorial, a design that had been in use since 1959. For 20 years by 1979, Americans had grown familiar with this reverse. But familiarity does not mean lack of value. In fact, sometimes the most common-looking coins hold the greatest surprises. The 1979 VDB Lincoln Cent was struck in large numbers. The Denver Mint produced billions of them. Because of this high mintage, most circulated examples are only worth face value. That is exactly why so many people ignore them. But here is the truth: value in coin collecting is not only about mintage numbers. It is about condition, rarity in high grades, and errors. The composition of the 1979 VDB penny is primarily copper, with a small percentage of tin and zinc. These copper cents were the standard before the major composition change in 1982. That alone makes them appealing to collectors who prefer the heavier, solid feel of pre-1982 cents. Now let's talk about condition. In coin collecting, condition is everything. A penny that has been heavily circulated, scratched, or worn down will almost always be worth just 1 cent. But a 1979 VDB Lincoln penny in pristine, uncirculated condition is a completely different story. Professional grading companies like PCGS and NGC evaluate coins based on a numerical scale from 1 to 70. A coin graded MS65 or higher is considered gem mint state. But when you reach grades like MS67 or above, you enter a territory where coins become scarce, even if billions were originally produced. Why? Because very few coins survive in nearly perfect condition. Most coins go into circulation immediately. They get dropped, scraped, stored improperly, or damaged in bags at the mint. High-grade survivors are rare. For the 1979 VDB Lincoln penny, collectors have paid significant premiums for coins graded at the very top of the scale. In grades like MS67 red, where the coin retains its full original red luster with minimal marks, demand becomes intense. Registry set collectors compete fiercely to own the finest known examples. Now imagine this. You find a 1979 D penny in an old roll that has never been opened. The coin shines with bright red color. The surfaces are clean. The strike is sharp. The Lincoln portrait is crisp. If that coin grades at the highest levels, its value can shock you, but condition is only part of the story. Error coins create another level of opportunity. During the minting process, mistakes can happen. These errors transform ordinary coins into rare collectibles. Some of the most desirable errors include off-center strikes, double dies, clipped planchets, and broad strikes. That a double die error occurs when the coin's design is impressed twice in slightly different positions, creating a visible doubling effect on the date or lettering. On a 1979 D penny, collectors look carefully at the date and the word Liberty for signs of doubling. Off-center errors happen when the blank planchet is not properly aligned during striking. The result is a coin with part of the design missing and blank space visible. The more dramatic the off-center strike while still showing the date and mint mark, the more valuable it can be. There are also cases where coins were struck on the wrong planchet. While extremely rare, a penny struck on a foreign planchet or a different denomination blank can command extraordinary prices. For collectors in the United States, the thrill lies in checking pocket change, bank rolls, and inherited collections. You never know when a rare error might appear. The market for Lincoln cents has remained strong for decades. Ever since the Lincoln design was introduced in 1909, it has attracted loyal collectors. Key dates like the 1909 VDB and the 1914 D have always captured headlines. But modern issues, especially in superb condition, are now gaining attention. The reason is simple. As time passes, collectors begin to focus on completing high-grade sets. When they discover that very few top-condition coins exist for certain dates, competition drives prices upward. The 1979 D penny might not be rare in circulated grades. But in top-tier mint state, it becomes a condition rarity. That is where opportunity lives. If you believe you have a high-grade 1979 D Lincoln penny, the first step is careful examination. Use a magnifying glass. Look for full red color, strong luster, minimal contact marks, and sharp details in Lincoln's hair and beard. Check the fields for scratches or dullness. Never clean the coin. Cleaning can permanently damage the surface and destroy much of its value. Even light wiping can leave hairline scratches visible under magnification. If the coin appears exceptional, consider submitting it to a professional grading service. The authentication and grading provide credibility in the marketplace. Buyers are willing to pay more for coins that have been certified. Auction records show that top population coins can achieve astonishing prices when two determined bidders compete. It only takes two serious collectors to push a coin's value far beyond expectations. Imagine turning a single penny into a serious financial reward. That possibility is what excites so many collectors, but remember, patience and knowledge are essential. Not every 1979 D penny will make you wealthy. The vast majority are common. The key is understanding what separates the ordinary from the extraordinary. Search for original mint rolls. Look through estate collections. Visit coin shows. Study grading standards. The more you educate yourself, the greater your chances of spotting hidden value. The beauty of coin collecting is that it combines history, art, and investment potential. When you hold a 1979 D Lincoln penny, you are holding a small piece of America in 1979. That year marked a period of economic challenges and cultural shifts. Yet billions of these coins quietly entered circulation, never expected to become collectibles. Now, decades later, time has filtered out the best survivors. Many have been lost, damaged, or melted. The finest examples stand out like diamonds in a field of stones, and here is where your opportunity lies. Check your change tonight. Open that old jar. Look at the mint mark beneath the date. If you see a small D, take a closer look. Condition is your golden ticket. Some collectors dismiss modern pennies. They assume only early 20th century coins hold value. But the market proves otherwise. High-grade modern coins can outperform older, heavily circulated classics. In the competitive world of registry sets, the finest known example becomes a trophy. And trophies command premium prices. That if you are serious about building wealth through coins, discipline matters. Focus on quality over quantity. Learn grading standards. Protect your coins with proper storage. Avoid moisture and harsh environments. The journey begins with awareness. Most people overlook pennies entirely. That gives informed collectors a powerful advantage. Think about this. How many billions of pennies pass through hands every year without inspection? Within that massive stream of coinage, a tiny fraction holds exceptional quality or rare errors. If you have ever tossed a penny into a jar without a second thought, today's story might completely change the way you look at your spare change. Because hidden among millions of ordinary coins is one small copper treasure that could quietly transform your financial future, the 1981 no-mint mark Lincoln 1-cent penny. This is not just another common coin. It is a piece of American history tied directly to the legacy of one of the most respected presidents in United States history, Abraham Lincoln. The Lincoln Cent series, first introduced in 1909 to honor the 100th anniversary of Lincoln's birth, became one of the most collected coins in the country. By 1981, the design had already stood the test of time for more than 70 years. The obverse of the 1981 penny still features the classic portrait of Abraham Lincoln designed by Victor David Brenner. His profile faces right, calm and dignified, with the word Liberty on the left and the date 1981 on the right. Above his head, the national motto "In God We Trust" arches along the rim. On the reverse, you'll see the Lincoln Memorial, a design introduced in 1959 to commemorate the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. If you look closely, you can even see a tiny depiction of Lincoln's statue inside the memorial, an incredible detail for such a small coin. When we say, no mint mark, we are referring to a coin that does not display a small letter beneath the date. In 1981, pennies were struck at multiple facilities, including the Philadelphia Mint and the Denver Mint. Coins produced in Philadelphia during that time traditionally carried no mint mark. That means if you see a 1981 penny without a letter under the date, it was struck in Philadelphia. At first glance, you might think that makes it common. And in many cases, it is. Millions were minted. But within those millions lies opportunity, because not all 1981 no-mint mark pennies are created equal. The year 1981 was particularly significant in the history of the Lincoln Cent because it was the final full year before a major composition change. In 1982, the United States Mint transitioned from a primarily copper composition to a copper-plated zinc core due to rising copper prices. That means the 1981 penny represents the end of an era, the last of the traditional bronze cents before the metallic shift. Collectors value transitional periods. They value the last of a type. And they especially value coins that survive in exceptional condition or carry rare minting errors. The standard 1981 no-mint mark penny was struck in 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc. It weighs approximately 3.11 grams. That weight is important. Serious collectors and coin hunters often use a precision scale to confirm authenticity and composition. If your 1981 penny weighs close to that 3.11 gram standard, you likely have the classic bronze version. Now let's talk about condition. Because condition is everything. In coin collecting, the difference between a circulated coin and a mint state example can mean the difference between 1 cent and thousands of dollars. A circulated coin shows wear. You'll see flattening on Lincoln's cheek, jawline, and hair. The Lincoln Memorial may appear smooth or lacking detail, but a mint state coin, especially one graded MS-65, MS-66, or higher, retains its original luster. The surfaces shine with a rich red glow if the coin has been preserved carefully. Copper coins are especially sensitive to air and moisture, which means finding a bright red 1981 penny decades later is much harder than you might think. And then there are errors. Error coins are where the real excitement begins. A double die error, where the design appears slightly doubled due to a misalignment during the die creation process, can dramatically increase value. Off-center strikes, clipped planchets, and die cracks also capture collector attention. Imagine discovering that what looks like an ordinary penny in your drawer actually contains a noticeable doubling in the lettering or date. That tiny detail could turn pocket change into serious money. Another factor that drives value is color designation. Copper coins are graded as brown, red-brown, or red. A fully red example with strong original mint luster is the most desirable. Collectors compete aggressively for high-grade red specimens, especially those certified by major grading services like PCGS or NGC. Now let's talk market psychology. The coin market thrives on demand, rarity, and condition. Even though millions of 1981 pennies were produced, very few survive in pristine, high-grade condition decades later. Think about how many were spent, dropped, scratched, stored improperly, or exposed to humidity. Survival rate in top condition is far lower than original mintage numbers suggest. That is why serious collectors carefully examine bank rolls, estate collections, and old coin jars. They know that hidden gems still exist. They know that patience and knowledge can uncover opportunity. If you are searching for this coin, here's what you should do. First, inspect the date carefully. Confirm it reads 1981. Second, check beneath the date for a mint mark. If there is no letter, you have the Philadelphia issue. Third, weigh the coin if possible. It should be around 3.11 grams. Fourth, examine the surfaces under magnification. Look for doubling in the date, Liberty, and In God We Trust. Also inspect Lincoln's bow tie and hair for extra thickness or separation lines. Lighting matters. Tilt the coin slowly under a bright lamp. Original mint luster has a cartwheel effect, a rotating shine that moves across the surface as you tilt it. That cartwheel glow is a strong sign of mint state preservation. If you believe your coin is in exceptional condition or displays an error, consider professional grading. Authentication and grading not only confirm condition but also increase buyer confidence when you decide to sell. Now imagine this scenario: you are sorting through an old jar of pennies inherited from a family member. Most look worn and ordinary. But one coin stands out. It shines slightly brighter. The details are sharper. Under magnification, you notice subtle doubling in the lettering. You weigh it. The numbers align perfectly. You send it for grading. Weeks later, it returns in a protective holder with a high mint state grade and confirmation of a desirable variety. That is the moment collectors live for. The 1981 no mint mark Lincoln Cent may appear simple. It may appear common. But history has shown time and time again that overlooked coins can become surprising performers in the market. As copper prices rise and collector interest in late-date high-grade coins continues to grow, demand for premium examples strengthens, and here is what makes this even more inspiring: pennies are accessible. You do not need thousands of dollars to begin searching. You can start with pocket change. You can start with curiosity. The knowledge you gain becomes your greatest investment. Many people dream about finding rare silver dollars or gold coins. But sometimes, opportunity hides in plain sight. In the smallest denomination, the coin most people ignore, the 1981 no mint mark penny represents the closing chapter of the Bronze Era before the 1982 composition transition. It represents decades of American commerce. It represents a design that has survived world wars, economic crises, and generational change. When you hold one in your hand, you are holding more than metal. You are holding a story. A story of American minting history. A story of potential. A story that could reward the patient and informed collector. And yet, under the right conditions, that small copper coin could be worth far more than 1 cent. Today we're talking about the United States of America 1995 no mint mark Lincoln 1 cent penny, a coin that might already be in your possession. This coin belongs to the legendary Lincoln Cent series, first introduced in 1909 to honor Abraham Lincoln. For more than a century, this design has remained one of the most recognized and collected coins in American history. But not every Lincoln Cent is created equal. The 1995 penny without a mint mark may look ordinary at first glance. On the obverse, you'll see the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln facing right, along with the inscriptions, "In God We Trust," "Liberty," and the date 1995. On the reverse, because this coin was struck before the year 2009, you'll find the classic Lincoln Memorial design, columns standing tall, representing strength, unity, and national pride. Now here's where things get interesting: when a penny has no mint mark, it typically means it was struck at the Philadelphia Mint. In 1995, millions upon millions of pennies were produced in Philadelphia. So you might think that means they're all common and worth only face value, but in the world of coin collecting, small details make a massive difference, and the 1995 no-mint mark Lincoln Cent is famous for one particular reason: the 1995 double die obverse error. This is where opportunity begins, that a double die error occurs during the die creation process. Before coins are struck, the dies themselves are manufactured using a hub that imprints the design. If the hub shifts slightly during this process, parts of the design can appear doubled. When that flawed die is used to strike coins, every coin it produces carries that doubling dot. On certain 1995 no-mint mark pennies, collectors have discovered strong doubling in the word liberty, and in the motto, "In God We Trust." The doubling is visible to the naked eye on higher grade examples, especially in the letters. This is not damage. It is not machine doubling. It is a true double die, and that distinction matters. That if you are searching your 1995 pennies, here's exactly what to look for. First, examine the word liberty. On a genuine double die obverse, the letters will show clear separation, not a shadow, not a blur, but a distinct secondary image. Next, inspect "In God We Trust." Pay attention to the words God and trust. Strong examples show dramatic doubling. You don't need a $1,000 microscope. A simple magnifying glass with 5x to 10x magnification can reveal the difference. Now let's talk value, because that's why you're here. That a regular circulated 1995 no-mint mark penny without errors is typically worth face value. Maybe a few cents in uncirculated condition. Nothing life-changing, but a confirmed 1995 double die obverse penny in mint state condition is a completely different story. In lower mint state grades like MS63 or MS64, these coins can sell for hundreds of dollars. In higher grades like MS65 or MS66, values can climb into the thousands. The better the condition, the stronger the strike, the cleaner the surfaces, the higher the demand. Condition is everything. Coins are graded on a scale from 1 to 70. A coin graded MS65 is considered gem mint state. MS67 is considered superb. And when you combine a major error like a double die with a high mint state grade, that's when serious collectors compete. Professional grading services like PCGS and NGC authenticate and encapsulate these coins. Certification adds credibility, and credibility drives higher auction results. Let's think about the bigger picture. Why does a 1995 penny command such attention? Because it represents a modern, affordable treasure hunt. Unlike ultra-rare early American coins that are locked away in museum collections, the 1995 no-mint mark penny was produced in the modern era. That means examples are still being discovered in circulation, in bank rolls, and in inherited coin jars. There are collectors who specifically hunt for this coin in unopened bank-wrapped rolls. There are roll searchers who examine thousands of pennies hoping to find that one dramatic double die, and every time one is discovered, it reinforces the idea that valuable coins are still out there. But you must be careful. There is a difference between true double die and mechanical doubling. Mechanical doubling often appears flat and shelf-like. True double die shows rounded, separated impressions. If you believe you found one, do not clean it. Do not polish it. Cleaning destroys value instantly. Leave the coin exactly as you found it and consider professional authentication. Now let's talk numbers in real-world terms. High-grade examples of the 1995 no-mint mark double die penny have sold at major auction houses for impressive sums. These are not rumors. These are documented sales driven by collector demand. The coin market rewards three things: rarity, condition, and demand. The 1995 double die obverse has all three when preserved in top condition. And remember something powerful: the 1995 penny is not an ancient coin from the 1800s. It's a coin many of you were using in your daily lives not that long ago. That means the barrier to entry is low. You don't need to buy a 5-figure coin to participate. You simply need knowledge and patience. Start by checking your change. Check old coin jars. Ask family members if they have saved pennies from the 1990s. Visit local banks and request penny rolls. Make it a routine, because in the coin world, the smallest details can create the biggest opportunities. Collectors in their 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s understand something important: wealth is built by recognizing value where others see none. A single cent. That's all this coin cost when it left the mint. 1 cent, but with the right error and the right grade, it transforms into something far greater. The 1995 no-mint mark Lincoln 1 cent penny stands as proof that hidden value still exists in everyday life. It proves that you don't need a treasure map, sometimes you just need a magnifying glass. Imagine the feeling of discovering one in your own collection. Imagine sending it off for grading. Imagine seeing that certified label confirming it's the genuine double die. Imagine watching collectors compete for it at auction. That is why knowledge matters, and that is why you should never ignore a coin simply because it looks common. History teaches us that ordinary objects often hold extraordinary stories. The Lincoln cent has survived 2 world wars, economic booms and recessions, changes in metal composition, and design transitions. And through it all, rare varieties have emerged, surprising collectors year after year. The 1995 double die Obverse is one of those surprises. So here is your action plan. Go through your 1995 pennies tonight. Separate the no-mint mark coins. Examine liberty. Examine in God we trust. Look carefully. Take your time. We're diving deep into the United States of America 2018 D-mint mark Lincoln 1 cent penny, a modern coin that most people assume is worth just 1 cent, yet under the right circumstances, could be worth far, far more. And if you're someone between 30 and 65, living in the United States, holding on to jars of change, old piggy banks, or inherited coin collections, this is exactly the kind of coin you need to be watching for. The 2018 D Lincoln Cent was struck at the legendary United States Mint facility in Denver. That small D mint mark just below the date tells you it was produced in Denver, one of the major minting hubs in America. At first glance, the 2018 D penny looks completely ordinary. On the obverse, you see the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln, a design that has been a part of American history since 1909. The modern portrait was created by sculptor Victor David Brenner, and it remains one of the most recognized coin images in the world. Flip the coin over, and you'll see the Union Shield reverse design, introduced in 2010. The shield represents Lincoln's preservation of the Union, with 13 vertical stripes symbolizing the original states, bound together by a horizontal bar of unity. Now here's where things get interesting. The 2018 D Lincoln Cent was struck in massive quantities. Billions of coins entered circulation. That means the average circulated example is still worth exactly 1 cent. You can spend it anywhere, but in the world of coin collecting, value is never about quantity alone. It's about condition. It's about rarity within the grade. It's about errors, and most importantly, it's about demand. The 2018 D penny is composed primarily of zinc with a thin copper plating. That makes it lightweight and affordable to produce. However, this composition also makes high-grade preservation extremely difficult. Why? Because zinc core pennies are highly susceptible to nicks, scratches, plating bubbles, and surface spotting. The moment they leave the mint and enter circulation, they begin to deteriorate. That means finding a 2018 D penny in flawless condition is far rarer than most people realize. In coin grading terms, we're talking about mint state grades, MS65, MS66, MS67 and above. The higher the number, the closer the coin is to perfection. Most 2018 D pennies found in pocket change would grade somewhere between MS60 and MS63 if uncirculated. But coins that achieve MS68 or higher are in a completely different league. Professional grading companies like Professional Coin Grading Service and Numismatic Guarantee Company carefully examine these coins under magnification. They look for perfect luster, sharp strike details, no visible scratches, no carbon spots, no plating defects. When a 2018 D penny meets those extreme standards, its value can multiply dramatically, but condition is only one path to serious money. Let's talk about mint errors, the true hidden treasures. Modern coins can have incredible minting mistakes that slip past quality control. And because the 2018 D penny was produced in such large numbers, even a tiny fraction of errors can create valuable collectibles. Some errors to watch for include off-center strikes, double die errors, die cracks, clipped planchets, broad strikes, wrong planchet strikes. A dramatic off-center 2018 D penny, especially one that still shows the full date and mint mark, can command significant premiums. Double die errors are particularly exciting. These occur when the coin's design is impressed twice at slightly different angles, creating visible doubling on letters or numbers. Strong doubling on Liberty or the date can turn a simple penny into a highly desirable collector's item, and here's something many people overlook. High-grade modern coins are becoming more popular with younger collectors and investors. There's a growing trend of people building registry sets, collections of the highest graded examples of each year and mint mark. In these competitive registry sets, collectors fight for the finest known examples. That competition drives prices higher. So imagine this scenario. A roll of 2018 pennies is purchased and carefully searched. One coin stands out: flawless surfaces, blazing red luster, razor-sharp strike. It gets submitted for grading. It comes back at an elite mint state level. Now suddenly, that 1-cent coin becomes an ultra-high-grade rarity, and this is where modern coin collecting becomes a game of patience and knowledge. Most people spend their pennies. A few people search them, very few people understand them, and the ones who understand them are often the ones who profit. Let's talk about red designation. When grading copper coins, professionals use color as part of the evaluation. A coin can be labeled brown, or red. A full red 2018 penny with original mint luster and no discoloration is far more desirable than a spotted or toned example. Maintaining that original red brilliance is critical. Exposure to air, humidity, and improper storage can dull a coin quickly. That's why serious collectors use airtight holders, low humidity storage, and careful handling. Now think about this for a moment. How many 2018 pennies were tossed into jars, scratched against other coins, or left in hot cars? Billions. How many were preserved perfectly from day one? A tiny fraction. And that's why condition rarity can transform even modern coins into high-dollar assets. Let's put things into perspective. Collectors have paid astonishing amounts for modern pennies in top condition. When population reports show only a handful exist at that level, population reports published by grading companies reveal how many coins have achieved each grade. When only 1 or 2 coins sit at the very top, competition becomes intense. This is supply and demand at its purest form: low supply, high collector demand, rising price. But before you get too excited, let's be realistic. Not every 2018 penny is valuable. Most are still worth face value, however. The difference between 1 cent and a life-changing payday often comes down to knowledge. Here's what you should do if you believe you found an exceptional example: do not clean it.do, not polish it.do, not attempt to improve its appearance. Cleaning destroys value instantly. Instead, place it in a protective holder and consider professional grading. If the coin appears flawless under magnification, look carefully at the cheek and jawline of Lincoln for marks, the fields around the portrait, the shield lines on the reverse, the edges for nicks. Use a magnifying glass with proper lighting, and remember, sometimes what looks ordinary under normal light becomes extraordinary under careful inspection. Modern coin investing requires a different mindset compared to classic coins like early wheat cents. You're not just looking for age. You're looking for perfection. Perfection is rare, perfection is valuable, and perfection in a mass-produced coin is surprisingly difficult to find. Now imagine opening a roll of 2018 pennies that has sat untouched since it left the Denver Mint. You carefully examine each coin. You separate the best examples. You send the top candidate to grading. Weeks later, the results arrived. IT receives one of the highest grades known for that year. Collectors notice, registry competitors take interest, bidding begins. What was once pocket change becomes a collector's prize. Stories like this are what fuel modern coin hunting. And here's the bigger lesson: wealth often hides in plain sight, not because something looks rare, but because most people overlook it. The 2018 Lincoln Cent represents opportunity, not guaranteed riches, but possibility backed by knowledge. If you have a jar of pennies sitting somewhere in your home right now, this message could change the way you look at it forever. Because today we are talking about a modern coin that most Americans have handled without a second thought: the 2021 Lincoln 1-cent penny. A coin so common, so ordinary, that millions pass through hands every single day. And yet, under the right circumstances, one of these tiny copper-plated coins can be worth far more than its face value. This is not an old wheat penny from the early 1900s. This is not a silver coin from the 1800s. This is a modern coin from 2021. And that is exactly why you need to pay attention. the 2021 D Lincoln 1 cent was struck at the Denver Mint, represented by the small D mint mark located just below the date on the obverse. The design features President Abraham Lincoln, originally created by Victor David Brenner in 1909. On the reverse, you'll find the Union Shield design, introduced in 2010, symbolizing Lincoln's preservation of the United States as one unified country. At first glance, there is nothing unusual about this penny. Billions were minted. In fact, the Denver Mint produced well over 1 billion of these coins in 2021. That means they are still widely circulating in pocket change, coin rolls, bank boxes, and coin jars across America. So how can something so common become valuable? The answer lies in condition, rarity within condition, and mint errors. Let's begin with condition. Most 2021 D pennies in circulation show wear. They have been dropped, scratched, slid across counters, and tossed into cash registers. These coins are typically worth only face value. 1 cent. Nothing more, but coins that were never circulated, known as mint state coins, are a completely different story. These are coins that retain their original luster, sharp details, and flawless surfaces. In the coin collecting world, condition is graded on a scale from 1 to 70. A grade of MS65 is considered gem quality. MS67 is superb. MS68 and above. That is elite territory. When a 2021 D Lincoln Cent reaches the highest certified grades, especially MS68 or better, collectors begin competing. Why? Because while billions were made, very few survive in near-perfect condition. Modern coins are mass-produced, and even at the mint, tiny imperfections can occur. Marks from coin bags, contact with other coins, and microscopic flaws can prevent a coin from achieving a top grade. That means a flawless example becomes scarce. Now let's talk about errors. Mint errors are where things get exciting. A standard penny is common. But a mistake made during production can transform that ordinary cent into a collector's prize. Some 2021 D Lincoln cents have been found with off-center strikes. Others show die cracks, cuds, or striking anomalies. There are coins with double dies, where elements of the design appear slightly doubled due to a misalignment during die creation. There are coins struck on wrong planchets, meaning the penny was stamped onto a blank meant for a different denomination. These errors are not common. And when authenticated and graded, they can command serious money. Imagine pulling a penny from circulation and noticing that the date looks doubled. Or that the rim is uneven. Or that part of the design is missing. Most people would ignore it. But someone who understands coin collecting would immediately recognize potential. The key is authentication. Professional grading companies such as PCGS and NGC evaluate coins, assign grades, and encapsulate them in protective holders. A certified high-grade or error coin gives buyers confidence. And confidence drives price. Modern coins have another advantage: they are easier to preserve. If someone carefully removed a roll of 2021 D pennies directly from the bank and stored them properly, there is a chance some could remain in pristine condition. Over time, as fewer perfect examples exist, demand can rise. Collectors today are not just older hobbyists. Many are investors looking for tangible assets. Rare coins offer history, scarcity, and portability. A coin can fit in your hand and still represent a significant amount of money, but here is the truth you need to hear clearly. The average 2021 D penny you find in your pocket is worth 1 cent. Do not assume every coin is valuable. The difference between a common penny and a valuable one comes down to grading and rarity within that grade. So how do you check your coins? Start by examining the mint mark. Make sure it is a D for Denver. Next, inspect the surfaces under bright light. Look for sharp details in Lincoln's hair and beard. Check the fields for scratches or marks. Rotate the coin and observe the luster. Does it shine in a cartwheel pattern? Then look for errors. Study the lettering on both sides. Examine the date and the words "In God We Trust." Look at the shield lines on the reverse. Any unusual doubling, distortion, or misalignment could be significant. That if you believe you have something special, compare it to certified examples online. Study auction records. Knowledge is your greatest asset. For those who truly want to maximize value, consider submitting high-quality coins to a professional grading service. However, grading fees can outweigh value if the coin is not exceptional. Be selective. The reason stories of valuable modern pennies spread so quickly is because they ignite hope. The idea that a simple coin in your pocket could pay for a vacation, eliminate debt, or fund an investment is powerful. And while most coins will not reach extreme values, a tiny percentage can. The coin market rewards patience and attention to detail. The person who takes time to learn, to inspect, and to understand grading standards gains an advantage over the casual spender. Think about this. Billions of 2021 D pennies were struck. But how many will survive decades in pristine condition? How many will be preserved without scratches, without discoloration, without wear? Very few. Time eliminates quantity. Condition eliminates even more. As years pass, collectors assembling complete Lincoln Cent sets will seek the finest examples available. Registry set collectors compete for the highest graded coins known. When populations are low at the top grade, competition increases. Prices respond accordingly. This is why modern coins should never be dismissed. Today's pocket change can become tomorrow's scarcity. The 2021 D Lincoln Cent also represents a piece of American continuity. For over a century, Lincoln has appeared on the penny. Generations have handled this design. It has survived world wars, economic crises, and technological revolutions. Even as digital payments grow, the penny remains part of everyday life. That familiarity blinds people to opportunity. That if you are someone who wants to turn overlooked items into financial gains, start paying attention to details others ignore. Study mintages. Learn grading standards. Understand what collectors seek. Knowledge turns ordinary into extraordinary.